heavy rain. Tallahassee has been in and out of those really heavy rain bands, stretching down to 2. The good news about Tampa, you're going to start to see the rain wind down, but those strong kind of onshore winds on the backside of this system, they're going to continue to push some of that water up into that bay and, of course, along the west coast for this region here as we get through at least the next couple of hours, even up until landfall. Now, as far as landfall is concerned, this is the area that we're watching for. Cedar Key stretching down to East Point. Tallahassee will be in the potential for that. And you can see the timing right around 11 o'clock tonight. So, again, we're getting close to that time frame for the Eastern time zone. At Perry, Tallahassee, this is kind of the spot that we're really going to watch for the worst of that center of that eye to work through. Remember, closer to the eye, that's where the most destructive winds are. So it really matters when we're talking about damaging winds, the closer you are to the center of it. Of course, if you're on the left side of that center, that means wind damage likely a little bit less. So the center of it is going to be really important. This system will, of course, weaken, but it'll take a little bit. We'll still be talking about likely a Category 2 here as we get into the overnight hours as it spent some time over land. Wind gusts have been pretty impressive, honestly. Even as far as south as Miami, we've seen them upwards of 70 miles per hour. We've got Bradenton at 71 miles per hour. Perry already starting to see those winds picking up. And the storm surge has been such a big talker here as we've geared up to kind of forecast and prepare for this system. Here's what we're getting so far across the Big Bend area. 2.5 feet. That's above what your regular water level would be. So you can see Old Port Tampa, about 3.5 feet. This is in some spots we're dealing with, of course, the low tide time. If you look to Cedar Key, the high tide is around 11:30, so that's going to take some time for us to see that big push of water with the system, along with those astronomical tides bringing that higher tide up, so the water levels are likely going to be higher. For parts of Tampa Bay, over 3 feet in St. Petersburg, we've seen those washed out roads. We know we've seen images from the Howard Franklin Bridge, from the Gandy Bridge, up and down places across the Barrier Islands with those washed out roads. That's all going to be kind of the scenes that we'll see as we go through at least the next couple of hours before we start to see things winding down for storm surge impacts there. Then we turn our attention to the very heavy rain. And the precursor event kind of was all of this moisture being dragged in ahead of the system. So you've got a lot of spots that are under high risk. Asheville stretching down to the coast for flash flooding, not just today, but into tomorrow as well, with multiple inches of rain have already fallen ahead of this system even arriving. So additional rainfall, we're talking multiple, again, another multiple inches. By the time this is all said and done, we could see 20, potentially 30 inches of rain in some of these spots. We've got the higher elevations at risk across parts of the Appalachians for landslides and mudslides. And remember, water, the number one killer in things like this. We've got the storm surge, of course, that we know how deadly 20 feet of a wall of water is. But flash flooding is also a major concern with this system. So no surprise that we've got more than 40 million people across this region under the flood watches right now. And notice we've already got ongoing flash flooding happening in some of these spots. Again, well ahead of where the center of that system is, and it hasn't even made landfall. So we've got a bit of a time to deal with this. The winds, this is where we're really going to watch for exactly where the center of it comes on shore, because notice Tallahassee, 90 to 110 miles per hour. That's if you're on really the eastern, the right side of that eye wall, and you go through the worst of those 120, 130 mile per hour winds. If you're on the left side of that, we could see a little less as far as storm damage from the winds, but even still, these are going to be impressive. We'll see that work across parts of Georgia here as we get through the overnight hours into tomorrow. So the power outages, to say the least, will be something that folks across this region are going to have to deal with. And of course, last but not least, we've been dealing with these tornado watches since early this morning. We've had multiple reports of tornado warnings across this region as well. And notice how late they go into. This will be something we see well into the evening hours. We know, Gotti, with some of that circulation coming on shore, it's not hard for us to see some of these spin-ups. The good news is we got past the warmest part of the day with all that convection kind of helping these form, but still we're going to have to watch for this threat on top of all the others here as we get through the evening hours tonight.
And we'll be checking back with you a lot this evening, Angie Lassman. Thanks so much. And now, to go to the ground, let's go to NBC News now anchor Tom Yamas, who joins us from Tallahassee to walk us through all of the chaos that tonight is going to bring. Tom, you're from Florida. You've seen so many hurricanes. You've seen this hurricane now ramping up for hours. What are conditions like right now in Tallahassee? Because we just heard that you've got 100-mile-per-hour winds that are headed your way.
Yeah, you mentioned chaos, and it'll get there tonight, and that's what everyone is planning for. But right now, Gotti, you can take a live look out here. I mean, it is nothing. It is barely sprinkling at this hour. You try to forecast these storms. It is not a perfect science. We have teams in place, obviously, covering all the state. Right now, Tallahassee will be the story in an hour or two. We haven't felt those tropical storm wind gusts even that just yet, but it is on the way and it is coming. It's a massive storm. We've seen what's going down in Tampa right now, massive flooding. I spoke to the mayor there. She was telling me the system seems to be holding up. Some of those aqua fences they put around the hospital are holding up. But the storm surge there, when you see the video, the storm surge there really is quite incredible. What they're concerned over here is the storm surge, but also those hurricane force winds you were mentioning. You have those live oak trees that are all around the city of Tallahassee. I just spoke with an FSU student who was sheltering in place. They feel comfortable. They say they feel safe there. There's about 700 students that are staying on campus, which is a small number when you consider there's about 40,000 students that attend Florida State University. I think about 10,000 attend Florida A&M. There are so many college students around Tallahassee. They make up about a quarter of the population here of 200,000. So you just wonder, people coming out, sometimes people like to have hurricane parties, which is never a good idea. But, you know, you start drinking, you start having a good time. You come outside and you see this, and you might say, oh, this is not going to be that bad. And then, sure enough, an hour later, this hurricane hits. And what we've learned so far and what our meteorologists at NBC News have been telling us is that this is going to hit real fast. It's almost going to feel like a tornado. It's going to come in hard. It's going to hit between 10 and midnight. We're going to feel those winds, and then it's going to be out of here. But it's so massive. It's affecting all those other states right now. So listen, Gotti, I think right now it's still a big unknown. We're seeing some damage to the Big Bend and to the Tampa area with that storm surge. But the real force, the real teeth of Hurricane Helene, we still don't know just yet.
And Tom, I know earlier you were reporting about power lines being fixed hours before landfall in some places. Ideal scenario is to get those fixed right now when things are relatively calm up north. But we continue to see outages popping up all across Florida. 383,000 customers are right now without power. How many could be facing a blackout in the middle of this potentially deadly storm?
You know, I saw one stat, I believe, that there's 11 million customers with power in Florida, at least from one of the power companies. So it could be pretty bad. That number is a big number, but it's not a terrible number just yet. We did see those line crews out, but I got to tell you, Gotti, from covering hurricanes and from living in Florida, I mean, no power line that is not underground can withstand those hurricane force winds. I mean, those towers will be brought down, those wires will break, trees will fall on top of them, and power will be out. And then those line crews, they actually come days in advance. They stay at the same hotels we do. They're ready to go. They're pre-positioned, as they say. So when it's safe to get out, and it's not going to be safe until sunup, they can go out there and they can start fixing those lines. This is the video we saw right here. And listen, you want to maintain power as long as you can, right? Because people are still trying to get out. This was around 10 a.m., just south of Tallahassee, right near the water. But look, the reinforcing power lines there, they want to make sure they can keep power on as long as they can. And as you see here, you can see the lights on behind me. Power's still on here in Tallahassee. But even in places like South Florida, which is so far away from this massive storm, the tropical storm wind gusts hit down there, and they knock down some of the power lines there. So it just goes to show you how big this storm is.
And Tom, when we're talking about those power outages, I mean, I'm so glad that you were bringing up the kind of anticlimactic nature of the lead up to when things get really bad. When you go outside and you're like, it's not too bad, it's not too bad. It's so gradual, right? And then all of a sudden, it is terrifying, and you realize that it's too late to leave, and then the lights go out. Do you think that that's sunk in for a lot of people, especially in Tallahassee, where you've never seen a storm this strong there?
Yeah, you know, people, they're used to storms here, and like you said, you're right. They haven't seen a storm this big since the 1840s, so obviously nobody that is alive right now has seen anything like this. But they have gotten glancing blows, and they know what hurricanes are like. Everybody in Florida knows what hurricanes are like. But I mentioned those college students. You have incoming students, freshmen from all over the country, transfer students who have never seen anything like this. And obviously there's something exciting about a hurricane, but is obviously incredibly dangerous, something you don't want to play around with. Especially in conditions like we're going to see in an hour or two. So yeah, you know, people are ready for it. They're hunkering down at this point, but it's unclear what's going to happen over the next couple of hours, and that really is the scary part.
And Tom, like you said, we've got crews spread all throughout Florida. Your expertise in Florida is so incredible. So I'm hoping that you can help us guide through some of the different correspondents across Florida and what we're seeing there on the ground. I think Kathy Park, she may also be in Tallahassee right now. Tom, if it's okay, let's check in with her real fast.
Yeah.
And Kathy, can you tell us,
Hey,
paint
guys.
us a picture of what you're seeing right now?
Hey, Gotti, good evening. Similar to what Tom is seeing at this hour right now, we're kind of getting a little bit of a teaser, preview of what's to come. At one point, the rain bands were really starting to come in. We were smacked about an hour or so ago, but now things have kind of pulled back, but we know things will really start to ramp up over the next several hours. But here in Tallahassee, the concern, of course, will be wind damage. 55% of the city is under tree canopy, so when you're talking about 100-mile-per-hour winds, over this area for an extended period of time, officials are really concerned about downed trees, debris, power lines, and of course prolonged power outages. Earlier today, we had a chance to speak with some residents who didn't want to chance it. They decided to hunker down at an emergency shelter. There are several that are currently open in the Tallahassee area, and the sentiment is, listen, they just didn't want to risk it because even, with their home, they don't have a lot of trees nearby, and they kind of did the prep work. They were just worried about what a Cat 4 storm could potentially do, so they didn't really hesitate. They decided to move into a high school turned shelter. The main rule there, if you are deciding to ride out the storm, is you can't go out during the height of the storm, obviously for safety reasons. And they were filling up pretty quickly throughout the day. At last check, they weren't at capacity, but obviously that window to head over to those emergency shelters is closing because the storm is rapidly intensifying and moving this direction. And Gotti, we spoke with the mayor of Tallahassee yesterday, and he was saying that they are bringing reinforcement from all across the country. Tomorrow will be a day of recovery. He said it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint, as they assess the damage. And they anticipate it will be massive because this will be the largest hurricane ever to strike this area if it comes in as a Cat 4. So they're bracing for impact here in Tallahassee. But it looks like a couple hours to go before things really start to intensify here.
And Kathy, given the intensity of the storm that's about to hit, what were preps like beforehand? How many people do you think actually heeded the warnings? How many are hunkering down? And were we dealing with situations where supermarkets were sold out of goods? What's the preparation like?
The storm really kind of formed quickly, and those people who wanted to get out, and when they heard the warning, they did. I can tell you just anecdotally, just talking to folks here, and based on where we are right now, all the hotels are sold out. So a lot of folks decided to find sturdier buildings like these hotels behind me. They have backup generators, so that's obviously a good thing. But as far as the prep work, we know, there was a run on groceries for those essential supplies. But a lot of these folks, they haven't had to deal with a storm quite like this. So that's the biggest concern here, and that's why when we talk to those folks at those emergency shelters, that's why they decided to leave their homes immediately and find a facility that they can hunker in place for an extended period of time. But they probably had 24, 48 hours to really kind of ramp up those essentials and have an evacuation plan in place. But a lot of folks also decided to get out of town. I heard someone decided to go to Jacksonville, just find relatives who were away from the path of the storm.
And Kathy, for those watching, if power goes out and if water starts to get into people's homes, what should they do?
The best piece of advice is to find higher ground immediately. And the thing is, emergency responders have been saying this throughout the evening. They are not going to go out during the height of the storm. They don't want to put themselves in danger. So, you're kind of on your own. So that's something to keep in mind as well. I got a letter at our hotel saying, stay away from windows. Go to the bathroom. If you have a basement, go there. Tom mentioned there are lots of college campuses in this area, and students are also being urged to do the same thing. So stay away from those windows and seek higher ground if you do have incoming water.
Kathy Park, thank you. And Tom, let's check back in with your part of Tallahassee. I believe Jesse Kirsch is also standing by there.
Yeah, Gotti, Jesse's just south of us in Perry, Florida tonight. So, Jesse, you're south of us. We really haven't felt anything just yet, not even tropical storm force winds. That's coming later. Have you felt anything, or you guys seen anything down in Perry?
Yeah, Tom and Gotti, I'd say right now we're starting to get some of those stronger gusts isolated at this point, but I'm clocking them in as high as 24 miles per hour or so. So the winds are definitely starting to pick up here. No heavy rain yet. I think more than anything, we're feeling around by these in speed. We're not seeing very many cars, if any at all, out on the roads anymore, which is great news. Officials here have asked people to evacuate. They've issued what they call a mandatory evacuation order, but at the same time, the sheriff in this county tells me they cannot force people to leave. And the estimate this afternoon was around 10,000 people in this county had stayed, including potentially around 200 people in the coastal low-lying areas where that storm surge could be up to 20 feet. That is not good news, and it makes me wonder what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. And what I can tell you is, Kathy just alluding to the fact that this storm is going to be potentially the worst of this kind of a hurricane on this area, in this area of Florida in history, in modern time. What we're talking about is a population that has seen hurricanes repeatedly in recent months. We had Idalia last year, then we had Debbie over the summer. This is going to be the third one in this area in just over a year span. But this one is different. It is substantially stronger. We're going to be dealing with something that's going to feel like a tornado lingering over this area for over an hour potentially, and that is going to weaken structures over that prolonged exposure, and that is something that people may not be realizing. We came across that ourselves. We met someone earlier today, or met someone yesterday, saw them again earlier today, and asked him if he was leaving town. He said he wasn't planning to because his grandma wanted to stay. We got her on the phone and conveyed this is not those other hurricanes, and I think that's something that hopefully is being is sinking in for people. But at this point, we're past the time to evacuate. It is dark. The winds are picking up here. I'm just checking the gusts we're getting right now. Again, these are isolated gusts. I'm getting around 50 miles per hour right now, as high as 24. I've clocked that in. And we're just expecting things to get worse here over the next couple hours, guys.
Yep, Jesse, starting to pick up there. Clearly, from what we've seen throughout the night, you are starting to feel the effects of Hurricane Helene. We appreciate your reporting. I want to send it back to Gotti and his show. Gotti, we'll stand by for you. We'll be back in a little bit.
Tom Yamas out there in Florida for us. Tom, thank you. Let's bring in the mayor of Tallahassee, John Daly. Mayor, thank you for being with us on such a crazy night. Direct hit of a hurricane this magnitude has not happened in Tallahassee in modern history. Do you feel prepared right now?
Gotti, thanks for having me on, and you are correct. This will be the most intense hurricane in the history of the city of Tallahassee for a direct hit, for sure. I can tell you that we've been preparing for the past week. We have checked all of our utilities to make sure that everything is working properly. We have tripled the workforce. We've got crews coming in from all over the United States to help us out with repairing electricity. The citizens of Tallahassee have been fantastic. Making sure that they're prepared and either sheltering in place, going to one of our shelters, or evacuating. But I got to tell you, you can prepare all you want, but if you take on a Category 4 direct hit, we are going to have damage. And we know that. And we've been shooting straight with the residents of Tallahassee, Leon County, so that they know the severity of the storm if we do take on a direct hit.
And Mayor, what are the plans for rescue operations if you need them tonight?
So we will be running our first responders, which hats off to everyone out there keeping us safe, of course. Keep in mind that Tallahassee is an inland community. We're 30 miles from the coast, so the storm surge is not a threat to us as it is to our neighbors, who we are thinking about as well. For us, it is more of the wind event, and we will have a rain event as well. We're above average for rainfall. Our biggest threat are the trees. So look, when the windshields get up to sustained, I believe above 35 miles per hour, we can outrun our emergency vehicles. So the first responders will shelter in place until after the storm. So we're asking everybody to stay inside, hunker down. Now's the time to be safe.
And if you haven't had the chance to visit Tallahassee, I mean, the oak trees there are, I would argue, the most beautiful in the country. And yet, when you're looking at 100-mile-an-hour plus wind gusts, can those oak trees sustain that? And, yeah, I mean, those oak trees, those branches are heavy, tons sometimes. What kind of damage could that cause?
Well, you're absolutely correct. We are internationally known for our beauty. We've been a Tree City, USA for over 30 years. We love our trees. but trees, wind, and power lines do not mix. And we know that with a Cat 4 coming directly at us, we are going to have serious damage. That is for sure. So we're prepared. We'll wait and see what Mother Nature brings us, and we'll go from there. I'll close by saying, we've got a saying here in Tallahassee. We're Tallahassee strong, and no matter what happens, we're going to come together as a community. I remind everyone it's going to be a marathon, not a sprint for recovery, but we're going to make it.
Mayor, thanks so much. And one more question, if I may. I know a lot of parents of some college students are watching with their college students hunkered down and are terrified right now of what their kids are about to go through. A lot of students not able to get out. How is the city supporting that?
Sure. And you're absolutely correct. Not only are we the state capital, but we're a college town. We have Florida State University, FAMU, and Tallahassee State College. We have over 70,000 college students in our community. Now, working in conjunction with both universities and the state college, on Wednesday when they decided to make the announcement to shut down their campuses, I think the universities and the state college did a great job encouraging the students to go home and evacuate. Many of them took that seriously and did leave. I can tell you that the universities have also opened up shelters for the students themselves as well in the basketball arenas to make sure that the students are taken care of. But yeah, I want those parents to know that we have a major Cat 4 heading our way, but the Tallahassee community cares about our collegiate community, and we're going to do everything we can to keep them safe.
Mayor, our thoughts and prayers are with you guys tonight. Fingers crossed that damage is not as bad as people are expecting. Mayor, thank you.
Thank you.
And let's check in a little bit north. We've got NBC News correspondent Priya Shrithar, who's in Atlanta, Georgia, where the storm is expected to hit next after Florida. And Priya, people are going to be watching this. They're going to be like, wait, you're in Georgia. It is raining. We just saw Tallahassee, which is north of you. It is not raining. That's not even the hurricane, right? What are you seeing on the ground right now?
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Gotti. This is actually a completely unrelated weather system from what we're expecting from Hurricane Helene, which is going to hit us probably after midnight into the early morning hours on Friday. But it's actually been raining here in Atlanta for about 24 hours. So
it looks like we just lost Priya. It's very difficult in these types of circumstances to maintain communication, but we're going to try to check back with her in just a little bit. We've got Priscilla Thompson right now, also in Georgia, near the Florida border, outside of a shelter. Priscilla, can you paint us a picture of the scene that you're seeing out there? Are people using that shelter behind you?
Yeah, Gotti, they are. And first, I'll just give you a sense of the conditions. We are starting to see the rain come down here in about the past hour or two. It's been coming heavy and then lighter, and you can see some of the wind starting to pick up with that Spanish moss that is moving ever so slightly. But just in the last hour, the county put out an alert that anyone who is in a mobile home or something like that needs to get to a shelter, and that is what we're seeing people doing. They are coming in. We just saw this family of 10 coming in, and there are about 130 people in the shelter, and you can see folks are spread out wherever they can find space. The shelter says that they will not turn anyone away, and folks are planning to hunker down here through the night. And I want to introduce you to one couple that I spoke to, Curtis and Catherine Jenkins. They're right here, and we got Mr. Rob right here as well. And you were telling me that last time a storm came through, a tree actually fell on your home. So tell me, part of a tree. So why did you come to a shelter tonight?
Because as we were listening to the news, it was bigger than the last one. Even though the last one was pretty good, it did not that was it.
Knocked down the tree.
Knocked down a lot of in the neighborhood also.
Yeah.
We figured it might be better if we come to shelter. If it does hit the house and it rains, at least we'll be dry.
Right. They should be dry. It'll be safe. And Curtis, just talk to me about what are you expecting tonight? What are you anticipating from this storm?
Well, from the news, I'm expecting a lot of wind, a lot of rain, but I'm expected to be safe because that's why we're here. And I'm a firm believer that the Lord Jesus is going to take care of us. He's our safety, so that's why we're here.
All right.
Yeah, that's why we're here.
Yes, and for these 52 years married at the end of this year in December, so they want to stay safe, as does everyone here. You got 130 people here, and again, the shelter saying even if they hit capacity, they're not going to turn anyone away because there are very serious concerns about this storm here in Georgia. The governor is saying that all 159 counties in the state could be impacted, and we're talking about hurricane force winds in some areas, which could cause those downed trees, even the potential for landslides, the governor says, because of the amount of rain they're getting, and also tornadoes. So a lot of concern, a lot of threats here, and the county is saying that this storm is shifting east, putting this county directly in the path, which is why they put out that warning just a short while ago saying if you are in a mobile home, ignore the curfew and get to a shelter if you can. And so it's good news that people are heeding the warnings. We saw people earlier today boarding up their businesses, putting out sandbags, doing everything they can to preserve property. But of course, preserving life is really going to be key here as well. Gotti?
Priscilla Thompson, thank you so much. We'll be checking back with you a little bit later tonight. And we just got an alert right now. National Weather Service, they've expanded hurricane warnings further northward. In addition to tropical force winds, few locations as far as the Atlanta metro area and high terrain in the northeast Georgia mountain could see hurricane force winds. That is Georgia. That's not Florida there. So I believe we still have Priya Shrithar. We've reestablished communication with her, who is in Georgia right now. Priya, you were just telling us about this system that you're experiencing right now and the system that's about to hit you. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely, Gotti. Well, what I was saying before is that it's been running for about 24 hours. So when Helene's impact hits us, which is expected to happen late tonight into the early morning hours on Friday, that's just going to make matters worse because the ground is already extremely saturated and we're already seeing points of flash flooding around the city. You might be able to hear emergency sirens behind me right now, and that's because a lot of people, as you can see, are still driving on these roads. We're on a road that is already experiencing a little bit of flooding. The mayor of Atlanta, Andre Dickens, has stood up a joint emergency operations center, and they're monitoring areas of the city just like this one that are very susceptible to flooding. But in addition to that, as Priscilla mentioned, we're also watching those really strong hurricane force winds. 60-mile-per-hour winds are expected to come here to Atlanta, and just as the mayor of Tallahassee was pointing out, we also have lots of very tall trees here in Atlanta, so they're warning people here that you might have sustained power outages. Now, Governor Kemp did say that he's mobilized 10,000 linemen from Georgia Power. He spoke with the CEO of Georgia Power, and they're on standby ready to respond to all of the power outages that are expected to happen, but they're not going to be able to address any of that, Gotti, until the weather actually stops. And that's why they're urging people to get your homes ready, have candles, flashlights, water, whatever you need in case your power goes out for potentially days.
Priya Shrithar with some really good advice there. Priya, thank you. And we are closely following Hurricane Helene tonight. This monster storm expected to make landfall in Florida's Big Bend as a Category 4, leaving hundreds of thousands without power at this hour, about 500,000 people so far. And officials are preparing for the worst as the storm threatens to bring life-threatening storm surge up to 20 feet in some parts. There's flash flooding, catastrophic winds, even tornadoes. If we can, you could see just the force of these waves earlier in Tampa Bay, crashing into cars that were crossing on a bridge. Now, this comes just one day after Helene lashed parts of the Caribbean, leaving destructive flooding in parts of Mexico, Cuba. Now emergency declarations are stretching all across the southeast as Helene's impacts could still be catastrophic even as it weakens a little bit and moves inland. Let's check in with NBC News meteorologist Angie Lassman. Angie, what are the impacts that we're already starting to see as we get into this window for potential landfall in the next couple hours?
Yeah, hey there, Gotti. The impact. The fact that we're already seeing strong winds, even as far south as Miami, we've been seeing those tropical storm force winds since earlier today. We've, of course, got the rain that has been impactful, and even out ahead of the system, that rain has already caused flooding across much of the southeast, and there's way more to come as we get through the next 24 hours, essentially. I want you to look at kind of the structure of this system right now. Notice the eye. This is, of course, where we always watch for the most destructive winds to work through as the system comes ashore. It's really
at the northern and eastern part of this eye wall that you can see where those darker reds are that have really ramped up. The backside of the eye wall not looking quite as healthy. So still, as that system comes on shore, this is where we're going to watch to see exactly where that kind of lines up, what cities it's moving through. Tallahassee or Perry, where that kind of sets up is going to be where the most catastrophic damage from the winds are going to be. We've also got plenty of rain, of course, draped across parts of the state of Florida. We're seeing less rain across the Tampa Bay area, but the storm surge, we've already had multiple pictures and viewpoints from this region as the afternoon and evening got underway, and some of that water started to wash over the roads. Heavier rain across Panama City, Tallahassee, and this is going to be kind of the story that we deal with from here on out for folks there. The good news is it's a fast-moving system. We've been talking about how impactful that's going to be. So folks across Florida, you're going to see that kind of out of the picture here as we get into the evening and overnight hours, and we'll see some improvements as far as rain and the winds go, but then that's going to be Georgia's problem. Now, when we look at kind of those spaghetti models, it's all tight clustered, right? But we've got St. Mark's to Perry. That's where we're kind of watching the center line of this. And again, on the eastern side, on the right side of that eye wall is where the winds are. So places like Perry, you could really be in for it. We'll be talking about maybe Monticello, as we get down the line. If Tallahassee stays on the left side of this, on the western side of that eye wall, could be a little better for what we've expected as far as wind damage, but still impactful nonetheless across this region. Timing has not changed, still looking at about 11 p.m., so we're kind of winding down time, which honestly, if this thing were to spend any more time over those really warm waters with plenty of moisture to tap into, I wouldn't be surprised if we would be talking about a Category 5. The only thing that's really going to kind of hamper this intensification process is going to be that interaction with land, which we're already seeing as parts of the outer structure of this system comes on shore. Of course, we'll watch it into tomorrow. We know the rainfall is going to be nothing to laugh at. We've already seen impacts when it comes to that across the region. There's the latest stats as of 8 p.m. 130 mile per hour winds. Just a monster of a storm. Category 4. I mean, major damage expected, and of course that storm surge. But here's some of those hurricane peak gusts that we've seen in some spots. We've got Bradenton at 71 miles per hour. Perry just starting to see those things ramping up as far as wind gusts are concerned. So the down trees, the down power lines, that's all going to start to come. We likely see power outages about 50 miles per hour or higher. So across that area, the power likely going to be out potentially in some of these spots for days, if not weeks. When it comes to the storm surge, the Big Bend area, that's where we've been watching for the highest of the storm surge, 10 to 20 feet. We're dealing with lower tide right now. We're going to see that high tide come up around 11:30 tonight in Cedar Key. So this number is going to rise, and that's when we're most concerned because it coincides kind of with that same time frame of when the system's coming ashore. So especially if it's on the right side of that eye wall, and you've got all of that water working up against the shoreline, not great for of course, the storm surge values that we could see coming out of that area. If you think back to Ian in 2022 or Michael in 2018, those storm surge values anywhere from 15 to 18 feet, and we know the decimation that occurred from all of that really destructive water. So we'll be watching for that still. Across Tampa Bay, of course, not expecting those kinds of values, but still 4 to 8 feet is what we've been watching for. We've seen these numbers kind of rise as the evening has gone on, and we're still getting that kind of onshore push of water on the backside of that system as it works to the north and eventually makes landfall. The rain, this is what I'm, honestly, as a meteorologist, what I'm really concerned at, because I think with these tropical systems, it's so easy to really focus on the storm surge and focus on the winds, but the rainfall is going to be one of those things that unfortunately could be fatal in much of this region. We've got Asheville, Atlanta, stretching down to the Gulf Coast of Florida under this high risk for flash flooding, Gotti. This is going to be something that we could see upwards of 20 inches of rain by the time this is all said and done. Landslides, mudslides across Appalachia is going to be a big deal as we get into not just the rest of the day today, but of course into tomorrow.
Angie Lassman, thank you, and we'll be checking back with you a little bit more tonight.
Of course.
Let's turn now to NBC News correspondent Jay Gray, live from Tallahassee. Jay, the mayor said Helene could be the strongest hurricane in recorded history to ever hit there. What's the latest? What are you seeing?
Gotti, unfortunately, I think you may be onto something here. What we're seeing right now is a more steady rain. The wind's starting to shift and settle in a bit here, and it's only going to go downhill over the next several hours. We're right in the path of what, as Angie did such a great job of describing, a monster storm here. I mean, we're a bit inland. We're still going to see 120-mile-an-hour winds. They've never seen that in this area or anything close to that. In fact, the strongest gust we've seen, and Chris, we talked about this earlier, 89.
Helene makes landfall in Florida as a major Category 4 hurricane with a devastating storm surge. And now we're starting to see the effects of the storm right here in the Piedmont. Because of the bad weather we are getting from Helene, many school districts are either closed or operating remotely today. Good morning. Welcome to the Fox 8 Morning News. I'm Cindy Farmer.
And I'm Jordan Brown. A lot of closures to tell you about today. Let's take a look now. Allegheny County, Asheboro City, Alamance, Burlington, Guilford County, Mount Airy City, Randolph County, Rockingham County, Thomasville City, Winston-Salem, Forsyth County, and Yadkin County schools are all closed today. Now, Caswell County, Davie County, Lexington City, Stokes County, and Surrey County schools are all on remote learning. We do have all of the closings and any other changes scrolling at the bottom of your screen right now. You can also find them online at myfox8.com. Let's get over to Emily Bird right now, who has been tracking Helene for us all morning. Emily, it's now a tropical storm, thankfully.
Yes, and the actual winds within the storm are going to continue to diminish, of course, but the forward motion of this storm is accelerating, and it is moving fast at 30 miles per hour, moving to the north right now at 70 mile per hour winds with 90 mile per hour gusts, and continues to bring a threat of wind damage and tornado damage to eastern South Carolina, portions of Georgia, and even portions of southern North Carolina. We're going to take a look at that tornado threat and the wind threat right now. Take a look. Showers moving up from the south and southwest. You can see some of the tornado warnings that are here north of Charleston now. And this is the area up to just about that North Carolina, South Carolina line. The Storm Prediction Center is out looking for some of the more vigorous tornado activity potentially within our rain bands. But we do have some strikes of lightning coming through and showers just moving over the South Carolina line here in the southern Piedmont. We have tropical storm warnings in Charlotte. How often do you see that? Well, this is actually a new thing the National Hurricane Center is doing, issuing inland warnings, not just the ones across the coast. So we have tropical storm warnings up to Atlanta, up to the Tennessee-Georgia line, and including the North Carolina mountains until you get up to Watauga County. So Mount Mitchell, Asheville, Cherokee, all under tropical storm warnings this morning. Tornado watches are out for southern North Carolina. Again, Charlotte is part of that, but not the Fox 8 viewing area at this point. And there are a couple of warnings back here to our south. Now, we are expecting the threat for tornadoes to shift northward during the morning and into Virginia as well. So that's something that we're going to be watching very closely here for the morning commute, especially between 7 a.m. and 11 a.m. That's when we're going to probably have the worst of it. I think we could even trim it down to
What's going on YouTube, man?
Protein packed for strength and recovery. Or it's
the industrial grade products you need. Granger, for the ones who get it done.
Into the mountains, Habersham, Rabin County, Gainesville, you're going to see very strong winds as well. So you can see the center of the storm does avoid Metro Atlanta. In the eastern side of these storms are always have the strongest winds and really the greatest damage potential. So that's a little piece of good news for us here in Metro Atlanta. We may avoid those significant gusts, but still almost 25% of the state is without power. And that number jumped when Rodney and I got to work about 5 hours ago. 500,000 people were without power. Now it's up to 900,000. So we'll continue to see those power outages. You can see by 2 p.m. today, it's a tropical depression in Tennessee. Wow. You can tell I've been up for a while. Lord Jesus. If it was going to Texas, we would have a crazy problem. Airplanes all over the place would be wild. All right, let's talk about wind gusts because this is the most updated numbers. West Georgia, your wind gusts between 20 and 40 miles per hour. That's not too bad. For Metro Atlanta, just in the next 3 hours, your max wind speeds will be between 30 and 50. That certainly could cause power outages, but I'm the most concerned in East Georgia, 50 to 70 mile per hour winds, all right? In terms of the additional rainfall, the rain's going to end here shortly. That is the good news. But if you live in northwest Georgia, the National Weather Service has issued a mesoscale precipitation discussion. Say that 3 times fast. They basically put those out when they're very concerned for a small area to see significant flooding. And they've issued that for northwest Georgia. This area, which extends from Marietta, Cobb County, up I-75, so Acworth, Lake Allatoona, into Bartow County, all the way to Chattanooga, you're looking at an additional 1 to 2 inches of rain. I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but Ben just told you, most of us have gotten 8 inches of rain. So this is going to be an area that could see additional flash flooding through the rest of the morning. And I want to remind you guys, even after the rain moves out today, the creeks and streams are going to continue to rise from the runoff, okay? So just be aware, you will continue to see flooding even today, this afternoon, when the rain moves out. Let's take you hour by hour for your day today. 6 a.m., 9 a.m., it's still raining. I do think the rain will probably start to taper on 9 a.m. for Metro Atlanta. By noon, still some showers in the mountains, but essentially by noon, we should be able to breathe a sigh of relief. It is going to stay quite windy into the afternoon, so even though the rain will end this afternoon, we could still see additional power outages, so that is just something to be aware of. I want to send it over to my friend, First Alert meteorologist Rodney Harris. Rodney, we were hoping that not many people were going to be on the roads, but we still have some breaking traffic alerts.
We do indeed. In fact, Ella, this is an even more breaking alert than what I just told you. I just got this information in like 10 seconds ago. What you see behind me, this is I-20 eastbound at Glenwood Road. I'm being told that a tree fell on a car here, so we have lanes that are blocked. You can barely see it, but at the very top of your screen, you can see some flashing lights there. Again, I-20 eastbound at Glenwood Road. We're told a tree fell onto a car in this area, so a lot of you are not on the road, but if you do have to take this particular route, we're basically leaving downtown Atlanta, headed eastbound toward Lithonia, you will run into that delay. And that's why we're telling you to just not get on the road if you can, if you're not an emergency crew, because these are the type of things that will continue to happen. So again, behind me, that is I-20 eastbound at Glenwood Road, where we're just told a tree fell on a vehicle. Also, don't want to forget about our friends in Buckhead. We were reporting earlier some evacuations around the Nancy Creek, so I do want to give you an update. First of all, here's your perspective on our traffic map and First Alert radar. Nancy Creek, this is just east of 400, just south of Windsor Parkway, south of 285, Buckhead going into Sandy Springs. Here was the issue here. So that particular river, the level is 14 feet. The flood stage is 11 feet. So we want the river to always be below the flood stage. Because it's above flood stage, that's why you're seeing a little bit of flooding. But earlier today, we had some evacuations, and that's because the major flood stage for this particular creek is 13 feet. So now that we're above that, that's why you were seeing such a big issue. That was about 3 hours ago that we saw those evacuations, but I'm still seeing that river fairly high. So Nancy Creek, just east of 400, Buckhead going into Sandy Springs, that is still an issue for you. And we're going to to continue to watch Brooks and Gavir, these flood stages across Metro Atlanta. A lot of the flooding that we're going to see, as First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez mentioned, will be on the roads because we're in Atlanta and there's a lot of concrete. But with this amount of rain, like 8+ inches over 48 hours, you may actually see some of these creeks and rivers come up. We don't really see that happen often enough to where it becomes a danger, but that will also be possible with creeks because we have seen so much rain. So if you live in an area that's near a creek or a river, we're going to continue to watch those stages for you to let you know if you need to take any kind of action. We'll keep you up to date on the roads. We'll keep you up to date on these flood stages with more First Alert weather and traffic to come.
And the dark clouds are saturated. Last night, we had that rain on Wednesday even before Helene started to move in. And we got a lot of trees in Atlanta.
Yeah, it's apparently many of them are coming down, unfortunately. So let's get out to Atlanta News First Don Shipman. He is with the First Alert Breaking News Tracker. And Don, you are there in DeKalb County, the North Druid Hills area, where we're getting another report of another tree down.
Yeah, and this is another big tree. We've talked about this so many times, but these huge aging trees that we have here in Metro Atlanta, when the ground gets saturated with the water from the rain that we have gotten so far, it's a recipe for disaster for these trees. I'm going to show you where we are right now, and you can see that the rain is coming down, and actually the wind is picking up. We're in North Druid Hills. We're on Hopkins Terrace. It's a residential area right here. It actually comes to a dead end up here, I believe, but we can't get to the end because there's a tree down up here, and we're coming up on it now. We're driving back into this area to give you this vantage point, and then we're going to back out. I'm going to tell you why. Here's why. Because when we arrived here just about 10 minutes ago, my photographer, Izmir, was out of the truck setting up a camera so we could go live from outside the vehicle. We got a gust of wind, and he could hear some tree branches falling. So again, a lot of big trees in this area. You can see it right here across the street. Not sure when this came down, but it came down, it looks like a number of hours ago, because they already have some yellow tape just letting people know. So we're going to back out of here because there are other large, tall trees, and we don't want to get hit by any branches coming down. But that's something you got to take into consideration. You've been hearing our team of meteorologists this morning, and everyone there in the studio. You guys have been saying, if you don't need to be out and about, don't do it. Just simply stay home. You can watch television, watch the news, and you can see what's going on, because this is the type of stuff that you're going to encounter, and you don't want to be in the wrong place at the wrong time if a tree does come down. And then also you got to take into consideration, we've been talking about the flooding that many communities are dealing with all across the metro, specifically those low-lying areas or those areas that are near creeks and rivers. When there is any type of pooling in the road, it is so difficult to see and really grasp how deep it is. It could be just a regular puddle, but if you're driving and you're going at a steady clip, say 55, 65 miles an hour, and you hit any kind of standing water, it's a recipe for disaster. And if it's deep, it could be even worse. So you really do have to use caution. The other thing I'm noticing is that we have a number of areas throughout the metro where roads are under construction. Obviously, those construction crews are not out there doing any kind of construction right now, but the cones are still there, and the ground is still, there's a lot of dirt and stuff like that. With all of this rain, the sides of the streets or the roads or highways, they can easily get washed out, and we are noticing a lot of water on the edges of the road, and with the construction, that can be an issue. So be mindful if you're out and about in those types of areas. And then the last thing I want to mention is you're going to notice a lot of barricades where roads are closed because of trees down, like where we were earlier. You're going to see a lot of police, and you're going to see public works. Use caution when you see those blue flashing lights or you see yellow flashing lights. That means those crews are working to secure an area, block off an area. If a tree is down, chances are a power line is down as well. Like in this area, there is no power in this neighborhood right here. So that is something to keep in mind. Guys?
Did you and Izmir run into any problems when you were navigating the roads to get over there?
Not bad. Not too bad. There's just these areas where all of a sudden you come upon some pooling in the road, and you just don't know how deep it is. You have to slow down. So yeah, that's the main issue right now where we are. But I mean, I've been listening and watching. I mean, where Asia is, it's just incredible.
Yeah, and even if you think you know the roads and you know the area, if you can't see it, that's why they always say turn around, don't drown, because it is that important. Don, thanks so much for that report there. Hey, yesterday, Helene made landfall in Florida's Big Bend region as a Category 4 storm, and we're getting some video of how things were yesterday, just to give us an idea of what they may look like in our area.
So take a look at it. I believe we're starting in, is this Bradenton? Yep, Bradenton. You can see trees down there. Look at the surf. And you could see a boat out on the water. Helene made landfall about 11 o'clock or so last night, right around the Tallahassee area. Fortunately, it wasn't a heavily populated area, which is the good news, but you could see the effects of the storm right there with the flooding and the surf.
All right, and then we also have some other video that we want to show you guys, just again, giving you kind of an idea of some of that damage that Helene has now left behind. And this is out of Lake City. It's a smaller town just outside of where I'm from, outside of Jacksonville, about a 40-minute ride to get over there. And that is some of the damage that they are dealing with this morning. So a lot of cleanup ahead for a lot of these areas that have been hit, including some areas here in the metro and in North Georgia as a whole. Of course, we'll be watching some of that damage as those new reports come into the newsroom.
And our team of meteorologists has been watching the storm all week long. They've been talking about how it was shifting and wobbling a bit. It shifted to the east over the last day or so. So the Athens area for us is going to be one of the places that's going to see the impacts in terms of the wind and some of the rain. Joshua Skinner is in Athens for us this morning, so let's check in with him and see what the situation looks like there. Joshua?
Yeah, I'm actually at Harv, Mathis, and Lawton Road. It's a residential area here in Athens, and kind of give you a microcosm, the rain calmed down. The wind is almost completely still right now, but behind me you can see some of the damage from earlier on. This is a full-on tree that has fallen across a series of power lines, knocked out the power to this whole area, and if you look over to the base of that tree, you can see it's been ripped up completely by the roots. Just amazing what kind of power it takes to pick up something that big and rip it right to the ground. But again, that saturated ground is a problem. Again, no power here. As you can see, this is why. The lines are down. We are keeping a safe distance from these lines, but they're down, and there's a bunch of scenes. And we know of at least a dozen scenes similar to this around Athens. One of the things that we saw coming over here, you guys were talking with Don about the kinds of things he saw on the roads. We haven't seen a lot of pooling or any water on the roads, but one thing we did notice, that especially on Highway 29, which is a busy intersection, the lights were all out. So there were people, especially before the sun came up, who were just driving right through the intersection, maybe not realizing they were even at an intersection, and you got a big four-way exchange there, right for a wreck. So even if the roads are looking fine, you should, stay slow, keep your eyes peeled for that kind of thing. The sun is coming up right now, so it will help a little bit. But a lot of times people don't see the lights, they just drive right on through, and then that's how you get wrecks, and that's how you get casualties. So again, a lot of scenes like this out here. Luckily, this is just over the lines. It didn't fall in anyone's house. It didn't look like it fell in a car. The mailbox right there was spared. So best case scenario in terms of a falling tree on power lines, guys. But we're monitoring these. We'll be going throughout Athens, looking around, seeing what issues there are, how long it will take them to repair this stuff. No crews are out here yet. We've seen a lot of cars drive up and turn around. One car came, flying down here. I thought it was going to hit our vehicle, and it stopped at the last second before very aggressively backing up and turning around and leaving. So we're just continuing to monitor this, but the weather has improved. It's still raining a little bit, but the winds have died down significantly.
That is good news. All right, Joshua Skinner for us in Athens.
All right, so we've got to get over to First Alert meteorologist Rodney Harris. Rodney, you're seeing a major issue there on the connector downtown. Where exactly are you, and who's this impacting?
So, Brooks and Gavir, this is the connector southbound at University Avenue. As soon as you pass downtown Atlanta, this is breaking, brand new. We have another tree that has come down now on the connector, and you can clearly see all of those emergency vehicles stopping traffic. So most of the connector, I-75, 85 South, is blocked. There is a little bit of traffic getting by there, but most of the connector is blocked southbound at University Avenue. It's right right after you pass I-20 because of another tree that's come down. So we really urge you not to get on the roads because a lot of this will continue to happen because of a combination of the wind and the rain. Again, that's a big alert basically right in the heart of Atlanta. So we'll keep you up to date on that. In the meantime, I also have to send it over to First Alert meteorologist Ella Dorsey because, Ella, you have some new information on this flood threat, which is getting higher, if you can believe that.
This is a really, really dangerous situation. I really need to emphasize that this is significant. This is catastrophic, life-threatening flooding that is occurring in the area in the pink box, which includes downtown Atlanta, areas south, Hartsfield, Jackson. If you live inside the perimeter, you're included in this. This also includes parts of DeKalb, also including parts of Gwinnett County. Guys, this is not something that the National Weather Service issues very often. I'm going to let you read yourself these cities. I'm going to read to you the text just to show you how bad, and this is going to extend through 1 p.m. This is the text from the National Weather Center, or excuse me, National Weather Service. This is a particularly dangerous situation. Seek higher ground now. Life-threatening flash flooding of low water crossings, small creeks and streams, urban areas, highways, streets, and underpasses is occurring. Move to higher ground now. This is an extremely dangerous, life-threatening situation. Do not attempt to travel unless you are fleeing an area subject to flooding or under an evacuation order. Turn around. Don't drown when encountering flooding roads. Most deaths occur in vehicles. That is really bad text coming in from the National Weather Service, and this includes all of these cities: Midtown, Decatur, Jonesboro, East Point, Virginia, Highland, Morningside, Union City, Stockbridge, Riverdale. If you live in this area, do not leave your home. Do not go to work. I don't care if you have to go to work and your shift starts at 9 a.m. You could die, essentially, okay? All weather-related deaths, out of all weather-related deaths, the vast majority of them, the number one killer is flooding, and a catastrophic flood warning, that's where most of them occur, okay? So please, if you live in this area, stay home. I want to bring in First Alert meteorologist Jennifer Valdez, because Jennifer, we've been doing this for a long time. I don't think I've ever seen a catastrophic flood warning for Metro Atlanta.
No, it's certainly not. And the verbiage they use is very scary and threatening, and that is on purpose. It is a flash flood emergency. We have to watch this flash flood emergency. But when they issue a catastrophic flash flood emergency, that is telling you that active flooding is happening. We are on a National Weather Service chat with emergency managers, first responders, meteorologists across North Georgia, and as soon as that was upgraded to a catastrophic, life-threatening flash flood warning, the emergency manager for Fulton County immediately chimed in and said, I agree with this. Yes, do this right now, because they are responding to multiple water rescues, and a lot of those water rescues are people in their vehicles. So we can't stress this enough. I know a lot of times you feel safe in your car and you feel like you're going to a better area, but the problem is, under this flash flood emergency, we're seeing flooding right now on the roadways, on bridges, on areas that don't normally flood. So that road that you normally take, that you are planning to take to flee, is not safe right now. It is not safe to leave your home. It is not safe to be in your vehicle. It is not safe to be on the roadways. And the heavy rain will continue. This is not going to get better. It is going to get worse before it gets better. I can't stress that enough. And the reason this was upgraded to a catastrophic flash flood emergency, because of this. Many areas have already seen nearly a foot of rain over the last 48 hours. A foot of rain. You're talking about this much rain over the last 48 hours, and all of that is turning into runoff, going into those creeks and streams. Bridges are getting wiped out right now. We're seeing water over the bridges, which is why you can't travel on these bridges. Roads that are normally dry are covered in water right now, and it's still dark outside, relatively dark, and you can't tell how deep that water is, and that's why we see so many flood-related deaths. Because people think they can drive through the water. They're not aware exactly how deep it is. They never imagine how deep that water is. And it doesn't take much water to carry these vehicles. Here's a look at First Alert radar. Very heavy rain along I-75, the downtown connector, Buckhead, Midtown, Sandy Springs. We're talking about the Perimeter Mall, Lenox Mall, South, Hartsfield, Jackson, Atlanta International Airport is included in the catastrophic flash flood emergency.
Zoo Atlanta, Grant Park is included in that emergency, catastrophic flash flood emergency. So we can't stress this enough. We're talking about Metro Atlanta, Fulton County, DeKalb County, Gwinnett County, Clayton County is included in this warning. And it's because we've already seen nearly a foot of rain, and additional heavy rain is actively falling right now. When you see these reds, this is heavy rainfall we're seeing right now across Metro Atlanta. This is not light rain. This is additional heavy rainfall on top of all the rain we've already seen. And unfortunately, it will continue. You look to our south, this is the rain that has still to move over our area. So although it's lighter, this is still going to swing on through. So we're still expecting an additional 1 to 2 inches of rainfall, with locally higher amounts, even higher than that. And then you go into North Georgia, heavy downpours across northwest Georgia, pretty much following I-75. Rainfall totals have been extensive. We had a front move through on Wednesday. And when we issued that first alert weather day Wednesday, we talked about how this is terrible because we're getting the soil saturated. We're getting 2-3 inches of rain. We had 3.5 inches in Atlanta just on Wednesday. That is before Hurricane Helene even moved into Georgia. So the day before we had a tropical system, we already had 3, 4, 5 inches of rain across Metro Atlanta, and then you get that tropical system on top of that, and that just adds additional problems. Anywhere you see pink, that is 6+ inches of rain over the last 48 hours. Rainfall totals have really been astronomical, record-breaking, and that is why we're showing you all these live images. And as the sun comes up, we're going to see more and more of these, and we're going to continue to see more and more storm reports, especially with the gusty winds, the saturated soil. We are going to see those power outages increase. Wind gusts right now in Atlanta, 39 miles an hour. Thankfully, the strongest winds are east of our viewing area in the Augusta area, far east Georgia, but we're still seeing 30, 40 mile-an-hour wind gusts across the area, and we'll continue to monitor that. The big question, how long is this rain going to continue? So still seeing heavy rain around the metro, and especially south, still seeing some showers. This is swinging on through. After about 10, 11 a.m., the rain will be out of here. But the way it works with flash flooding, the flash flooding gets worse before it gets better, because even though the rain comes to an end, you have all of that rain that just fell, and it's runoff. It's when you see it in the gutters and the storm drains, you see it along the roads, that is going to creeks and streams. So those creeks and streams will continue to rise even after the rain has come to an end. So we're going to be dealing with this flooding throughout the day today, which is why we have 4 first alert meteorologists with you this morning alone to keep you and your family safe. We are watching this very closely. Please rest assured that we are working hard to keep you safe, and we'll continue to keep you updated with updates throughout the morning.
And you know what, Jennifer? All you need to see is something like this to really show you what's happening in terms of the flooding.
Yeah, this is some serious flooding that we're reporting on out of the Buckhead area, more near Peachtree Creek, where a family had to be rescued. You can see a woman and her baby along with 2 dogs. There also appeared to be a man there that had to be rescued as well. We are told that they were stuck on top of their car, likely had to get out and escape from the car as they realized that they were in a pretty bad situation. But their fire crews working to make this rescue happen, and we are glad to report that everybody's okay, including the dogs.
They are. This is what fire officials had to say about this rescue and others.
We've been doing water rescues all night. And with this one, the vehicle was traveling in through the water. The vehicle started to float and floated off the roadway. They were able to get out of the vehicle, get on top of the vehicle. Once they got on top of the vehicle and we arrived, we were able to hook up a system to where we could lower the boat over to them because the current is very strong. So once they got the boat over to them, we were able to load them into the boat, bring them, haul them back over here to dry land and get them out safely.
That is the good news. They were able to get them all out safely. Our Asia Wilson was out there, and about 10 minutes or so from where that rescue happened, she watched a rescue take place at an apartment complex where those people were being evacuated, and the same crew was moving and making its way to the next situation that they had to deal with.
Yeah, so apparently, this is why it's important for people to stay indoors right now. This is why officials are urging you just to stay inside until all of this passes by, unless, of course, you're evacuated because of an awful situation like that. We do want to check in with Mina Austin, who joins us live this morning. She's reporting from Vinings. You know, out there in Cobb County, Yasmina, that rain comes down, and sometimes there are areas out there that are prone to flooding. What are you seeing where you are?
Yeah, well, actually, right now we are at the scene of a swift water rescue that happened here on Woodland Brook Drive. This is in Vinings, not far from Chattahoochee River off Paces Ferry Road. You can see there, this car, I don't know if you can see the top of it anymore, but it is nearly submerged in that water. We actually spoke with the driver of the car, and he is thankfully okay. He says he was driving.
Okay, all right, so we lost Yasmina's live shot, but we hope before we went to black there, you were able to see there was maybe this much at the top of that car is all you could see from the water that had overflowed its banks.
Submerged its car. I mean, this is something incredible. And now this is at least the third that we've reported on this morning. So obviously, I was saying as we were getting out to Yasmina, being someone who lives out there in Cobb County, look, I'm telling you, it does flood in certain areas out there. So that's why it's so important if you can just stay on the inside. But it appears that whoever was in that car was rescued, but we're working to get all of the information that we need, and hopefully we'll be able to get Yasmina back in just a minute.
And actually, fire officials were telling us earlier that they responded to, and this was maybe 45 minutes ago or so, they had responded at that point to 25 water rescues. So now that's increasing, that number is increasing, and we're continuing to stay on top of it to tell you where the worst of it is.
All right, so let's get over to Rodney Harris. Rodney, we know you're keeping a close eye on the flooding along with the traffic. And right now, actually, we'll get over to Ella. And Ella, this is great that we have been able to see these pictures because you got an update regarding the flooding here in the metro. And it's so important for people to heed these warnings.
I mean, I'm speechless when I see those images, and they're coming out all over Metro Atlanta, and for that reason, the National Weather Service has issued a catastrophic flood warning, guys. They only do this in very rare circumstances, and basically what they're saying is if you live in these areas, flash flooding is imminent. Do not travel or you will be risking your life. They've expanded this also to include parts of Gwinnett and DeKalb County. So I'm going to take you through the areas included in this. Midtown, Morningside, Virginia Highlands, parts of Buckhead, all of Decatur, Gresham Park, most of DeKalb County, downtown, East Point, College Park, the airport, Grant Park, Forest Park, Riverdale, Irondale. You are in this catastrophic flood warning. Also, now they've expanded it to include most of DeKalb County, Stone Mountain, Tucker, Mountain Park, Doraville. Looks like Brookhaven is included in this. Norcross. Guys, this is absolutely what we were thinking would be the most significant and the greatest threat, and that's what we're seeing. This expands until 1 p.m., so even after the rain moves out in a few hours, I implore you, if you live in these cities, please do not travel. Midtown, Decatur, Jonesboro, East Point, Virginia Highlands, Stockbridge, Union City, Riverdale, Stone Mountain, Tucker. We have seen swift water rescues. We've seen people being pulled out of their cars. We're getting multiple reports of people trapped in their vehicles. We're getting multiple reports of people seeing their entire cars completely underwater. It is so important for you to not get on the road for the
flooding. It's going to be very important for you to know that even after the rain ends, with a situation like this, when we start talking about a flash flood emergency, that means that threat for flooding will continue. So a lot of these warnings are actually in effect to like closer to noon. So even if the rain lets up where you are, if it's not as heavy, that doesn't mean that the flood threat is over. These flood warnings are in effect for several hours because it's going to take some time for things to kind of relax a little bit. So it's really important to note that not only is this a threat right now, but even when the rain stops a little bit, that flood threat will continue. One of the reasons why it is a flash flood emergency. Unbelievable that we're using those words, but that's what you get when you have 8+ inches of rain over 2 days. I'm with Ella. This is a very unique situation for us here in North Georgia, so we implore you to stay home. This is the other reason. Behind me, we continue to see a first alert for traffic. Ella, this is a tree that came down on the connector, and by this point, you get it because there's been a lot of trees that have come down. The connector southbound, as soon as you pass I-20, this tree is large enough, and you can see behind me, we have several emergency vehicles, and most of the connector is blocked. So if you're leaving downtown Atlanta this morning, hopefully you're not, but even like emergency crews, it's going to be tough getting toward the south side of town or headed toward the airport because of that tree that is down on the interstate. So we will let you know when that clears back up. I want to take you back to First Alert Radar. This is by far, Brooks and Gavir, going to be the story here over the next several hours. Ella is telling you about it. Jen is telling you about it. You basically have this purple covering all of metro Atlanta. This is a very dangerous situation, not just in flood-prone areas, but just about everywhere, which is why we're asking you just stay home until this flood threat certainly ends. And we'll keep you up to date on the flood threat as new crashes and new areas of problems pop up on the roads. I'll also continue to keep you up to date on that. We'll have more First Alert weather and traffic to come.
Rodney, thanks very much. I just got an alert on my phone, actually, from Fulton County Emergency Management that says that these high winds are dangerous. Bring pets indoors. In all capital letters, do not go outside. Avoid travel till further notice. Stay in an interior room of a sturdy building or in the lowest level of your home, so maybe even like a basement if you have one.
Yeah, I mean, it's just important for people to stay out of harm's way if they can right now, because if you don't have to be on the road, that is the best situation. You never know if there are power lines that are down. You don't know where the trees are. Finally, now that the sun is coming up, we can at least get an idea and start to see things. But still, if you can stay indoors, that is what you're being urged to do by officials. We do have some viewer video and photos that have been sent into the newsroom. This is coming out of the Buckhead area, the Peachtree Creek, which obviously has overflown there. And you can see just how high that water is at a home out there in that area.
Pretty intense, and as Jennifer Valdez, our chief meteorologist, was telling us a little while ago, Jennifer's here now, and Jen, they don't issue these warnings about severe flooding very often. This is serious.
Friends who's been sending me these videos, the water is now up to her car.
Oh, wow.
So it's getting higher and higher and higher.
How close is this to Peachtree Creek?
So they do back up to Peachtree Creek, but those houses are built up almost like at the beach. They're on stilts. So the lower level is bare because it is prone to flooding, but nothing like this. They had a major flood in 2009. A lot of those homes were destroyed in 2009. So they were demolished and they were rebuilt on stilts. And this is just unprecedented for that area. So yes, although the creek does rise, nothing like what they're seeing right now. So certainly this is why they issued a flash flood emergency. This is why they are using words like catastrophic, because the water continues to rise. And it's almost like you watch this in slow motion and it's just getting higher and higher and higher. And you're home, you've got your babies with you, and that feeling of desperation, you just want everything to be okay. And as you see that water slowly rising, certainly it's the last thing you want to wake up to this morning. But unfortunately for so many in metro Atlanta, that is exactly what we're seeing right now. First alert weather day, very heavy, catastrophic, widespread, record-breaking rain. This is a storm we will talk about not only for years, but decades, because of the flooding and flash flooding that it is bringing across North Georgia. Right now on First Alert Radar, extensive flooding, still very heavy rain over Atlanta. And that rain extends into portions of Coweta County, Spalding County, Butts County, Jasper, Putnam. But I do want to point out just south of that, notice how we're not seeing any green on radar. So this is the tail end of that constant
rain that we've been seeing for the past 48 plus hours. So there is an end in sight, at least to additional rainfall, but we're still seeing that rain across the area, and unfortunately, it is heavy across Atlanta. These are the areas that are flooding right now: Nancy Creek, Peachtree Creek, the Chattahoochee, all the creeks and streams really at or above their banks. Emergency manager from Fulton County has let us know that they are responding to numerous
Their signal went out.
rescues at this moment, which is why they did up DeKalb, Gwinnett, Clayton County, all included in this catastrophic flash flood emergency. And we are seeing additional heavy rain from Cobb County, Cherokee County, through Fulton County, Rockdale County, into portions of Clayton and Fayette County. Again, we are going to eventually see some improvement here, but for right now, we're looking at rainfall totals for many of us over a foot of rain over the last 48 hours. And with additional rain falling right now, this is going to get much worse before it gets better. I want to give you an hour-by-hour timeline so you can plan and prepare. Here's a look at 7 a.m. Still seeing that rain over the area. But again, remember I showed you south of our area, things will improve by 9 a.m. That rain is mainly north of the metro area. And then by about 11 a.m. noon, we're pretty much done. Could see some additional what we call wraparound moisture on the back end of the system. 7 p.m. across northwest Georgia. But as far as that steady, heavy rain we've been seeing, that will come to an end around 10 a.m. But even though the rain will be ending, the threat will not be ending. Gusts still up there. For power outages, still a big issue. Trees coming down, still a big issue. And of course, the flooding is my biggest concern right now. Flash flood emergency has been issued for the entire metro. Again, these are words from the National Weather Service. It is catastrophic. It is dangerous. Do not leave home unless you are in imminent danger. And this flooding is increasing. This will continue for the next several hours. Even after the rain comes to an end, we will continue to see flooding across the area. This is something we'll be dealing with the entire day. We've got the largest team of meteorologists in the Southeast, 4 of us here right now to keep you and your family safe. Of course, as soon as it is safe to leave your home, we will let you know as soon as the coast is clear. But for now, hunker down. This will continue through the rest of the morning and most likely for the metro for at least the first half of the afternoon. Of course, we'll keep you updated and we'll give you more information in just a few minutes.
All right, Jennifer, thanks so much for that. We are seeing trees come down all across the area. Northern Hills area, that's one place that we've seen power lines down as well as trees down.
So Don Shipman joins us live with an update about where he is. And Don, one of the things you said, Georgia known for its trees, but many of them being aging trees, so they will likely come down, unfortunately, today.
That is so true. The ground is so saturated now. We've been getting so much rain. Right now we are on Claremont Road. I want you to take a look and see what we see as we approach this intersection right here. And the one thing that we've noticed within the last 10 minutes, our meteorologists are spot on because the wind is really picking up and the rain now coming down like basically sideways, and it's these big gusts of wind. So if you need to be out and about, you're driving, for example, you've got to make sure you're paying attention. You're holding onto that steering wheel tightly. I also want to give you an update while I have you right here because when you guys last came to me just about 30 minutes ago, we were over on Hopkins Terrace, and it's a residential neighborhood. It's a small street. There is a huge tree that is across the street, and the street's closed off because of that. After we went live, a neighbor contacted me and said, that's my neighborhood. That tree came down right around 8, 9 o'clock last night. And in the process, it's actually 2 trees, came down. In the process, it took out some power lines. So that's why the power is out in that neighborhood. She lives right around the corner. She said that her power is on, but her neighbors are not. She says also, thankfully, no one was injured and no real property damage in that area. But we've been talking about this all morning long because we've been to a number of areas throughout the metro. specifically in North Druid Hills. There was another home that we stopped at, and there was a huge tree that came down in their driveway, dangerously close to their house, but it didn't damage the house, but it did damage a vehicle, the tree right on top of the vehicle. And then earlier in the evening, or overnight, I'm getting my day parts all mixed up now because we're up so early, but during the overnight in southwest Atlanta, another home with a tree on top of it through the roof, landing right into one of the bedrooms. Their daughter was actually trapped in her bedroom because the tree limbs were across the door to the exit to her bedroom, so she was stuck in there. Thankfully, no one was injured there. So again, right now we're still in North Druid Hills, and I'm seeing the racetrack over here. No power at that gas station right there. It's weird to see a racetrack gas station all closed up with no power. So in this neighborhood we're in right now, this is, what street are we on right now? Is it Dresden? Dresden Drive right now, still in North Druid Hills, and the power is out in this neighborhood. I'm looking at all the houses on one side of the street here with the power out, and then on the other side I do see some lights. So this is what we've been reporting all morning long. This is why we first alert, because we want to let you know what to expect. And what you can expect is likely more power outages as we are in the thick of all of this rain and now this wind that we are definitely starting to see pick up. And because we're getting more rain, we're also noticing more and more pooling on the road. That's another thing you want to take into consideration, because it just is dangerous when you're driving out and about like this. And now I'm seeing some blue flashing lights as we make our way down the street here. So when we get a little closer here, we'll see what's going on. But when you see these blue flashing lights, it's because either just go somewhere or they're blocking off the street. It almost looks like they're blocking off the street right here.
Yeah, sometimes you have to get right up to it before you really realize what the situation is, and you have to be able to respond accordingly. Don Shipman, thank you very much, and Ismir Payton there in the First Alert Breaking News Tracker. We're just getting breaking news coming into the newsroom. You know, Governor Kemp had declared a state of emergency so that they could respond, so that the National Guard could be deployed to help out. And now he has authorized another 1,000, I believe.
Additional troops.
Additional National Guard troops to be able to, in addition to 250 that were already authorized to help.
And his main thing, and he stated this when he's stood before, Georgia, he's been just trying to be prepared, as many of our city officials have been, and obviously the state as a whole just trying to be prepared. It's better to have and not need than to need and not have. Right. So it is important to have the crews here to be able to respond. And because of what we've seen out here, whether it be the rescues, some of the potential flooding that is still headed our way, we do understand that we could need help.
Right. So state of emergency, and now an executive order for an additional 1,000 troops to help out. Power outages, that's a big issue. Rodney Harris is keeping track of that. Rodney, we not only have Georgia Power, but there are a lot of different power companies throughout the state, a lot of EMCs that are going to be dealing with this as well.
Absolutely, Gavir. And what you see behind me, this is actually First Alert Radar. So one of the many things that First Alert Radar can do is track those power outages in real time from all of the companies, not just Georgia Power. So what I want to do, these numbers are changing very quickly now that the wind is starting to pick up here a little bit. As a reminder, for what you see behind me, the brighter the color, the more power outages that are being reported. So as we zoom into Atlanta, this remains the region where I'm seeing the biggest number of power outages. And as you know, that's simply because there's more people in Atlanta. But the biggest county by far is still, it looks like Brooks and Gavir, DeKalb County. I'm showing 30,000 homes reporting no power in DeKalb County. That is an increase from the past 30 minutes. Fulton County, including Atlanta, you are at 12,000, which is the same as 30 minutes ago. Henry County, 7,000 homes reporting no power. 6,000 in Clayton County. Gwinnett County, you are at 12,000. Hall County, you are at 7,500. And what I'd like to do is, because we're starting to see some of these counties further east lighten up here a little bit, I will take you further north than east here, Brooks and Gavir. So Clark County, Athens, you are also seeing a pretty high number of outages being reported. Right now you're at 6,000. And also if you are in Hall County, 7,500 people, or at least houses, reporting no power. So what I want to do next is take you to the forecast for power outages. And I will say that right now is the worst possible time for these outages at about 8 o'clock, which is 12 minutes from now. The orange that you see, that's basically corresponding to the higher winds. And when you combine that with the rain, that's why we're seeing these power outages. So this is the time where you're most likely to lose power if you haven't already lost power. As we move and advance into time, once Helene continues to move north, and thankfully Helene is moving very quickly, which means that the strongest wind is also going to move quickly toward the north. So by 10 o'clock, the orange that you see is really up in the mountains. So at 10 o'clock this morning, if you are in Blue Ridge, if you are in Hiawassee, if you are in Lake Raven, you still have an opportunity to have some new power outages. But by 10 o'clock, if you are in Atlanta, you should be fine. You should be in much better shape. And then continuing through the rest of the afternoon, I'm seeing a lot of that orange start to go away. And that's the color that I was really looking at. By the afternoon going into the evening, new power outages should start to relax. But again, at this particular point, we are seeing the highest risk for new outages, and that will start to come down over the next hour or so. So we'll keep you up to date on the power outages. Brooks and Abir, we're also talking about this flash flood emergency, and for more on that, I'll send it over to First Alert Meteorologist Ella Dorsey, because Ella, this is a really big deal that we're looking at right now, particularly for the city of Atlanta, Brooks and Abir, also extending back into DeKalb County. We can't say that enough, how dangerous that is.
Yeah, and Ella, we're going to bring you in now, but we want to take you back out here to Vinings, where we have learned that there is a swift water rescue that is still underway. You can see this car that appears to be an SUV, but in just the past 20 minutes or so since we last had this live look, even more of the car is submerged.
Right, you can barely see the top of it.
Yeah.
This is, we think that maybe this is the Chattahoochee River that's overflowed. This area is prone to flooding. We know that in the past. But this time around, we are talking about a catastrophic flood emergency. And the National Weather Service doesn't issue that very often. So that's nothing to take lightly. But this is, you know, is that another vehicle? Is that the second one that we're seeing?
We're seeing another vehicle that is back there. And just to give you guys kind of an idea of where we are. So again, this is in the Vinings area. We are learning that this is the Brandy station at Woodland Brook in Vinings. Obviously, if you're in that area, which I hope you are not close to that area, you want to stay away from it right now, because think about how large an SUV is and how much water that has to be for it to literally have a car submerged in it.
And how frightening if you're driving down the road and suddenly you come to this. And, you know, fortunately, at this point, we believe that those people were rescued. Our Yasmina Alston is out there speaking with officials, and hopefully she'll be able to join us with a live report. But again, I think the pictures really tell the story.
Yeah. And Ella, so you're talking about catastrophic flooding and these new warnings that have come in just the past hour or so. Let me ask you this. Is Vinings even in that highlighted area? Okay, so it is in that highlighted area.
Actually, you know what, Brooks? It's not.
Yeah, see, I wasn't sure, and that's why I said, well, you know, that just shows you everybody needs to stay on the inside. Or
Yeah, so Vinings is up here.
Right.
And this is the area that's in the catastrophic flooding. I can't help it, guys. That makes me angry. It makes me angry because we told you guys just please stay home, and to risk your life over what? Over what? Driving down a road? Please, if you are still at home watching us, do not get on the roads. We're seeing images like that all across Metro. At the very least, you could lose your car. At the very most, you could lose your life. This is catastrophic flooding that is occurring across most of Metro Atlanta. I'm going to go back to that graphic. This includes downtown Decatur, Gresham Park, East Point, Grant Park. This includes Morningside, Virginia Highlands, West Midtown. This extends over into Stone Mountain. This extends into Tucker, Lilburn, Norcross, so I-85, Doraville, down into the airport, Forest Park, most of Clayton County. If you live in this area, the text that came in with this warning from the National Weather Service was terrifying. They said, do not leave your home unless you are seeking higher ground, or you will be risking your life. It's just not worth it. And I can tell you the rain is the heaviest right now. We will see improvements just in the next few hours, so please, if you can stay home, do so, okay? I want to take you hour by hour. This is our high-res model. It updates every single hour, so it's very accurate.
You can see by 9 a.m., it's still pouring down in the mountains, okay? And the mountains, guys, if you live in the higher elevations, you have a chance for mudslides and catastrophic flooding, so please, also, I would stay home if you live in the higher elevations till at least noon today, okay? The rain will end for Metro Atlanta by 9 a.m., so we only have about an hour left of that heavy rain. But even after the rain moves out, the runoff is going to cause creeks and streams to continue to rise, okay? So please, if you lived in that area I just showed, I would not get on the roads. I would not leave your house until at least noon today. That catastrophic flood warning extends through 1 p.m. So after 1 p.m. by this afternoon, things should start to get better. 11 a.m. still seeing showers in the mountains, but then we should eventually dry out through the afternoon, okay? So please do not drive on the roads until this afternoon. If you have plans tonight, as long as the power is still on, you'll be able to keep those plans. Only a few isolated showers, and overall, this weekend is looking pretty nice. Probably going to see an increase of clouds tomorrow to mostly cloudy skies, but overall, outside of a stray shower both Saturday and Sunday, it'll feel really great outside with highs in the 70s. I've been getting a lot of questions about the Alabama-Georgia game. It'll be fine. Good to go over there in Tuscaloosa. But we're not in the clear yet. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but guess what, guys? We're still in the peak of hurricane season, and guess what? We're watching the Caribbean. This highlighted area, this is the same area where Helene Ford, the Caribbean, now a 30% chance of development. I am going to show you one of our long-range models. This is the GFS model, which picked up on Helene about 12 days out. It is picking up on another tropical system, perhaps a hurricane in the Gulf at the end of next week into next weekend. So just be aware, we're definitely not out of hurricane season yet.
November? Is that when it is?
November, yeah.
Can we count down now, please?
Thank you, Ella. All right, we want to get out to Joshua Skinner. He's in Athens for us this morning. What's it look like there?
Yeah, I'm at Ponderosa and Rollingwood. It's the latest in our rolling series of fallen trees on roadways. You can see this guy here. This is a little interesting scenario. Again, same as last time. You have them ripped up from the roots, falling across the road, falling across power lines. What makes this one interesting is this is blocking a homeowner from getting out. He literally just walked up to me a couple of minutes ago, and he was wondering when power crews are going to be here because he can't get out of his driveway because of this fallen tree. And so he was wondering when exactly anything was going to change. It's blocked on both sides of his home, so he is stuck in there, not like he really should be going anywhere in this weather anyway. By the way, that weather has picked back up. The rain is starting, the wind is starting to move, and there are some very tall trees out here that we're watching just in case something else comes down. But it does actually, even though his power line's down, it does appear that there is power through a lot of these homes here as some of this traffic moves by. But yeah, again, another tree down, guys. This one on power lines, again, though, not on a house, didn't fall on any vehicles, didn't look like anybody was injured, just a bunch of frustrated residents trying to figure out what's going on here. And you can see that wind picking up again. I don't know, Joe, if we can get up there and you can see those trees just flying left and right as they blow about. Again, that wind has picked up quite significantly over the last 10 or 15 minutes. The rain is coming down harder, getting a little more horizontal on us. But we are watching those trees, just make sure that nothing comes down on us as well. But we're going to continue to monitor this. Looking about, see if we can't talk to anyone out here about exactly, all of this, what's going on, and what might be happening, and when help might be coming for some of these people who are trapped in their homes, guys.
All right, Joshua, thank you very much for that.
And we want to get over to Rodney Harris. And Rodney, you're still staying on top of the roads right now because, of course, we're telling people not to be on the roads, but there are some people who still do have to get out of the door today. What are you seeing out there? Because 85 and 75, the connector seems to be a bit of a mess.
It is indeed, Brooks. So two separate things I want to update you on. First of all, as you mentioned, we're on the connector. That's what you see behind me. The connector southbound at University Avenue. So this is as soon as you pass I-20, as soon as you pass downtown Atlanta. There's a little bit of light out there, Brooks. I'm trying to look for it, but there's a tree tree down on most of the connector there. That's why you see all of those emergency crews at the scene. Again, that is the connector southbound. As soon as you pass I-20, we really hope that you're just staying home. But for emergency crews, we don't know who has to get on the roads. If you just have to get on the road, the connector southbound past I-20, you will run into that. Unfortunately, we have a bad update for Cobb County. I was reporting on a crash on I-75 North earlier this morning. It's actually still delayed at Delk Road as you leave Marietta, headed toward Kennesaw. We had a jackknife tractor trailer. An individual was ejected from that tractor trailer, and unfortunately, we have learned that that person has died. So we do have a death now associated with the crash in Cobb County. That was I-75 North at Delk Road, leaving Marietta, headed toward Kennesaw. That is still partially blocked. You can get by, but there are still delays there. That is now a deadly crash, unfortunately, in Cobb County. Again, just stay at home if you can because of these roads. Here is a look at that flash flood emergency. First Alert meteorologist Ella Dorsey, First Alert chief meteorologist Jennifer Valdez, Courtney and I, we cannot stress this enough. We're going to keep saying this over and over again because this is, in fact, a life-threatening situation whenever we have a flash flood emergency. It does include the city of Atlanta. It does include those of you in Decatur. It does include those of you near the airport, East Point, College Park, extending further east, Stone Mountain, Tucker, Chamblee, Norville, even the southwestern sections of Gwinnett County, not necessarily Lawrenceville, but basically what you see in purple behind me, do not get on the roads if you are in that zone because of the unbelievable amount of flooding that we are seeing. And as Ella and Jan have both mentioned, it is super important. Even when the rain stops, the flood threat will continue. There's just too much water out there. So don't let that fool you when the rain stops because the rain will start to let up here over the next hour or so. But that flood threat will certainly continue. And our extended coverage on Helene continues right now.
Atlanta News First starts now with the First Alert Weather Day.
Right now at 8, Helene, now a tropical storm creating dangerous conditions across North Georgia. A catastrophic flash flood emergency has been issued for the entire metro area as we are still dealing with heavy winds and widespread power outages. I'm Megan Packer.
And I'm Lana Harris. Governor Brian Kemp has just issued an executive order authorizing an additional 1,000 Georgia Guard troops to come and help with the recovery efforts, in addition to the 250 already heading into the field. It has been a treacherous morning already. The storm has killed 3 people here in Georgia. Dozens of people have gotten trapped in high water, and multiple roads across the metro are blocked with trees, power lines, or both.
We have team coverage this morning across North Georgia as we are now in the thick of it. So let's begin with First Alert Chief Meteorologist Jennifer Valdez. Jennifer, bring us up to speed of where things are looking right now.
Yeah, you talked about those roads being blocked with trees and power lines, but most of the roads are being blocked with water. We have a catastrophic flash flood emergency issued for Metro Atlanta. This includes Fulton County, Gwinnett County, portions of DeKalb County. It includes the airport. It includes Buckhead. It includes areas south of the airport towards Forest Park and Riverdale. The National Weather Service can't stress enough. Do not leave your home. Do not drive anywhere. The roads are far too dangerous. We are still seeing rising floodwaters, and that will continue to be the case at least through the early afternoon. Even though the rain will come to an end over the next couple of hours, the flash flooding will continue. The Fulton County Emergency Managers has let us know that they are responding to multiple water rescues. So folks are driving or leaving their home and they're getting in trouble. So do not leave your home, stay home. Again, a catastrophic flash flood emergency is in effect for Metro Atlanta. And that is why today is a First Alert Weather Day, because of the dangerous weather we are actively in right now across North Georgia. Here's a look at First Alert radar, and you can see most of the rain across North and Northwest Georgia. Some heavy downpours moving through Gordon County, moving through portions of Cherokee County, moving through North Fulton County, Gwinnett County. So although we've already seen nearly a foot of rain across much of Metro Atlanta, we are seeing additional heavy rain. Good news is you look to our south over Jasper, Putnam County, Carroll County, as we take you into portions of Fayette County, Pike, Lamar, Upson, we're starting to see improvement there. And as the system continues to lift north, the center of the storm now in northeastern Georgia, as it continues to lift north, it will take all of that rain with it. But for now, it is bringing a lot of rain. And can't reiterate enough, do not head out on the roads at all. The biggest killer danger in weather is flooded roads and people trying to drive through them. It only takes 6 inches of water to knock you over, and a vehicle, it doesn't take much, can sweep a car away and an SUV away, just a foot of water. And the problem is people encounter flooded roads, they don't realize how deep that water is, they attempt to drive through it, and that is an incredibly dangerous situation. The rain will continue for the next couple of hours, but it will improve. We're at the tail end of this storm. Helene now is across northeast Georgia, the center of that storm, so we will see improvement by 10 a.m. Notice that rain mainly in the northern suburbs through the North Georgia mountains, and then that rain will continue to lift north. Could see some residual rain across northwestern Georgia this evening, but we will see improvement as far as the rain is concerned. As far as those wind gusts go, it is windy out there, but thankfully the strongest winds are to our east in Augusta, South Carolina, east of that center of circulation, but we are seeing some 20 to 30 mile an hour wind gusts, and because we've had so much rain, it weakens the root structure of those trees, and certainly some additional power outages are very likely through the morning. So overall, a very dangerous situation in that we have widespread flooding. Not only that, widespread catastrophic flooding happening over our area right now, but we're also seeing gusty winds that will knock down trees and power lines, making the roads all that much more dangerous, which is exactly why we are under that catastrophic flash flood emergency, and that is why we are on nonstop with 4 first alert meteorologists to keep you safe. We will let you know when it's okay to leave your home, but for now, stay put. For more on what to expect the rest of today and this catastrophic flash flood emergency, something we don't see often at all, we're going to head to first alert meteorologist Ella Dorsey.
Jen, I don't think I've ever seen a catastrophic flash flood for Atlanta. And that just really, we're seeing images of that all across Metro. Cars completely underwater. Just can't implore this enough. Please, just stay home for the next few hours. We're going to see big improvements by this afternoon in the rain. But what I can tell you is even after the rain moves out, 10, 11 a.m., it's going to stay really windy. Here are your forecast wind gusts for Atlanta, and this is including Metro Atlanta. I want to remind you when a strong cold front comes through, right, in the fall, in the winter, and it gets very windy, we'll see wind gusts as high as 30 miles per hour. But once you get to 40 miles per hour, you're talking tropical storm force winds. That's what we're experiencing right now. Those tropical storm force winds will die down slowly. By 11 a.m., it's dry, but it is still very windy. 2 p.m., it's still very windy. And even into your evening, it's going to stay quite breezy. So like Jen said, even after the rain moves out today, we could continue to see power outages. So it's going to shift from a flash flood and rain threat to more of just a wind problem through the rest of the afternoon. Georgia Power crews did mention that they were not going to get out to start to restore power until the sun came up. The sun is now up. So if you do not have power, you'll probably get it back pretty soon. My mom said that she woke up this morning at 2 in the morning with that power, and at 7 it came back on. So some of them are already out there restoring power, okay? 9 a.m., we're still seeing showers. By 10 a.m., it is mostly dry, and we may even see breaks in the sun by this afternoon. So again, we are going to see big improvements in the weather in just a bit here. But guys, right now, it's really, really imperative that you stay home, you stay put, and you just keep watching us. We're going to be bringing you minute-by-minute updates throughout the morning.
Yeah, and I'll add on to that, Ella. Call the people you know who live in this area. I called my mom just after 7 o'clock, and I told her what was going on, make sure she knew what was going on. She told me that thank goodness that I did because the basement flooded. Wow. And her next-door neighbor's pool overflowed. She believes he also had some flooding. So please check on your people who live in this area. Let's get each other through this as well.
Right, don't assume they're dialed in or giving the alerts, or you would hope they're watching. But of course, if people are without power, check if you can. Let's go out to Gwinnett County right now. On Atlanta News First reporter Adam Murphy is live in Buford. Adam, tell us where you are exactly and what you're seeing.
Yeah, hi there, Megan. We're at Little Mill Road, which is near Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. In fact, the crossroad here is Skyler Hill Drive at Little Mill Road. You'll notice the roadway is closed over here in both directions. And if you look in the distance here, you're going to see a tree that fell on a power line up there. Obviously, that tree, some of it crashed into the roadway. So authorities have blocked this off completely. No traffic coming through this area right now. Very dangerous situation when trees do fall on pines, and we're going to see a lot of that in addition to the flooding. In fact, we noticed this line right over here, it snapped as well. We don't know if that's a hot line or not. We hope it's not. We don't think it is, but you don't go near any of those lines that come down. That's why this area is off limits. Cars are turning around from this area. Again, we're at Little Mill Road and Schuyler Hill Drive, which is in Beaufort, not far from Peachtree Industrial Boulevard. You want to avoid this area if you live in Beaufort. Anywhere in Gwinnett County, we have seen some cars trying to cut through. You'll see more cars coming up this direction right now, and they're turning around, realizing this area is off limits, so avoid it at all costs, or just stay home. Don't even come out of this area. But we're going to monitor some of these spots around Gwinnett County. We have others we intend to visit where we know there's been some issues with flooding. We know there's been some issues with dead trees and lines, etc. So be cautious, be careful, avoid Little Mill Road and Peachtree Industrial Boulevard here in the Beaufort area of Gwinnett County for now. At least the roadways will be closed for some time. We're live in Gwinnett County. Adam Murphy, Atlanta News First.
Yeah, one of many areas to avoid this morning. Adam, thank you for bringing us that. All right, let's head out to Athens now. Atlanta News First reporter Joshua Skinner has been making his way around Athens, Clark County. Josh, tell us where you are now and what you're seeing.
Right now I'm at Ponderosa and Rollingwood, and we're monitoring these trees as the winds have been picking up because it feels like at any moment another one of them can come down like this guy did earlier this morning, ripped up by the roots. These are massive trees in this residential neighborhood. This one fell across the road, across power lines. Did hit the house, however, it is blocking these people into the home. They're not able to get out. A couple of minutes ago, about 10 minutes or so, the homeowner actually came out and was talking to me. He asked me when our crew's going to be able to come out and clean that up because he can't get out of his home. Now, we told him, you probably shouldn't be going out of your home anyway. He does hear those things. There's lights on at home, there's lights on outside, so we don't know if this is a hotline. But again, as Adam Murphy was saying, you want to stay away from all of this stuff. If the wind once again picks up, and these trees are just violently swaying around. It looks like they're in a boxing match with each other, just flying around. But again, this is Ponderosa and Rollingwood here in a residential area of Athens. These are about the tallest trees we've seen in Athens. And they are moving, they are shaking. It's interesting. Didn't fall on a car, didn't fall on anybody, didn't fall on homes thus far. Just kind of falling across roads and on power lines. So right now, the damage from these does seem to be maybe not best case scenario, but better than what we were originally expecting to see. It got home for a while, and these winds have once again picked up. I don't know exactly what that was. But we're monitoring these trees to make sure that nothing comes down on top of us right now. But again, rain and a lot of wind right now, guys.
Yeah, Josh, thanks for that. I've actually been a reporter covering similar circumstances, and a tree fell where and those trees, when they snap, if you can imagine a branch snapping, that's what it sounds like, and it happens. That's why everybody's being urged right now to stay off the roads. You wouldn't want a tree to fall while you are on that road. Thankfully, where Josh is right now, like you said, it didn't hit anything or anyone, but he's just one reporter. We have multiple stationed across the area, including down into Florida, so you know exactly what's happening in our area. We want to get over to Don Shipman, who is in Brookhaven right now. So Don, what's happening where you are?
DPW or Public Works, basically a lot of streets, a lot of roads have trees that are down and wires that are down across the roads, so they are blocking those roads. Again, this is Dresden right here. They also say that they simply want you to stay off the roads. I also checked with DeKalb County Emergency Management. They're advising residents to simply stay home, stay off the roads. And here's the thing too, because you see all of these different, I've been showing you all the different tree limbs that are down and trees that are falling across the street. They're just putting up barricades, and police are on standby right there, keeping cars away. They can't do anything until Georgia Power gets here. And in fact, within the last 5 minutes, Georgia Power just showed up to this area here. The homes in this area, I don't see any lights, so I suspect that the lights are off in this area too. We are at Dresden, and that is Bambi, I believe it is right there. So this street, you can't go any further. We've been watching a lot of cars make their way here, see the blue flashing lights, and then have to do a U-turn. But like DeKalb County is saying, like Brookhaven is saying, they're saying, just stay home. The roads are just too dangerous. And it's not even just the trees, too. I mean, the fact that we're getting so much rain, you're seeing a lot of flooding in the streets, and that's slowing drivers down. It can be very, very dangerous if you're going too fast, or even if you go into any kind of standing water, your car will float away. You do not want that to happen, guys.
John, we've been trying to keep up with Brookhaven police all morning on social media. They've just been trying to post street after street after street that's closed and just trying to keep up with it. And we know their power crews are now trying to keep up with everything. Exactly. Let's go to Cobb County now. We are joined on the phone by Ross Cabot, the Cobb County Communications Director. Ross, good morning. Thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time. We've seen some incredible images already out of Cobb of water very, very high. Tell us what you're seeing and where it's the worst in Cobb.
Well, the Emergency Operations Center has been going now since around midnight and been very active, especially in the last hour. Many of the things that your reporters have been showing you and telling you about out there, we're experiencing here in Cobb County as well. We've had a couple of swift water rescues where we've had to send firefighters and police officers into the water because people have driven into the streets that are covered with water and get their cars flooded out. And we've plucked several drivers out of their vehicles this morning, including one recently on Fontaine Road down in Mableton. A couple of serious accidents as well. We've got several reports of trees into homes. Fortunately, nobody seriously injured. But the situation is, during the last hour and a half, that's when the wind picked up over here in Cobb County. We've got a bunch of trees that have fallen, taken power lines with them. We've got several roads closed. And the issue is we don't want people driving around because firefighters and DOT crews are concentrating on major thoroughfares right now. But there may be trees and power lines blocking neighborhood roads we haven't been able to get to yet. So it's just not safe yet to get out on the streets unless you absolutely have to because we continue to deal with these issues popping up again, especially within the last hour, 90 minutes. A lot more calls have come in.
Well, hey, I have to ask, we have obviously seen, as you have just reported there in Cobb County, a lot of people getting stuck in water. Of course, people are supposed to stay home, but if they have to get out, if they, don't want to heed this warning or they need to go somewhere, can you give any advice? What are you telling people right now as there are multiple road closures and a lot of perils out there?
Well, if you have to absolutely get out, just be very cautious in those neighborhood roadways and secondary roadways, because again, those are not the top priority of our first responders. So be extra cautious on those. Once you get out on the major roads, we do have several of them blocked, like Riverside.
All right, we might have lost Ross.
As well.
There you go. We got you, Ross. Can you just repeat the last sentence you said? We lost you for a moment there.
Yeah, just be very careful on the neighborhood and secondary roads.
Right.
We've got several roads closed due to trees down and roadway flooding on the major roads, but those are well marked by our first responders. Just be very careful, and for Pete's sake, don't drive into water-covered roads because that has been a big headache for us this morning.
And to be clear,
we want to go live out to rescue team. The Swiftwater Rescue Team is rescuing this family. This is, of course, Peachtree Creek, which has overflowed its banks, as it often does, but in this situation, pretty severely.
Yeah, so this is Bowler Road here, and you were watching it live as this family that we learned was stranded on top of their car, has had to be removed from that car, and right now they are being rescued by crews there on the ground. You can look at the flow of this water and just how fast it's moving, which obviously will present a challenge for those who are out there doing the rescuing. But it appears right now that those who they were trying to rescue from the top of that car have now been able to be pulled in from that boat there, and now they are getting off of that boat. So we want to get out to Atlanta News First Asia Wilson, who is there live on the scene for us. Asia, what is the latest that you're learning?
Well, the battalion chief actually just got out of his car and gave me 2 thumbs up with a big smile on his face. He said the family, as you're seeing,